Hi, I'm Ellen Siegel, and today I'm talking with Janine Vague of Transformative Psychotherapy. So relax into your openness and enjoy this enlightening conversation.
Hi, welcome. I'm Ellen Siegel of Be Happy No Matter What, and
I'm Janine Vague with Transformative Psychotherapy, LLC in Columbus, Ohio.
Right, we're both in Columbus. And today we're going to be talking about happiness. And just like the other things that we talk about, you could probably have many conversations. And, you know, who knows how far we'll get with this, and we'll take it from there. Yeah. So ever since I was a little kid, if I wasn't smiling, my mother would say, "What's the matter? What's the matter?" And so I got this impression that I was supposed to be smiling all the time, and that there was something wrong with me if I wasn't smiling. And somehow that spun into a lot of issues in my life. Whether it was self-judgment or really looking to what other people are saying to me about me. I developed an aversion to pain and hurt, and yeah, there were many other experiences that compounded that, but that made a big impression on me. And that, you know, we as children come into this world and we're responding and we're open and we're reacting to things. And yeah, it shows on our faces. And so later on as a parent, I was particularly aware of that with the person I was parenting. And so I consciously stepped back from reacting to all of to whatever he looked like to me, his facial expressions. He was having an experience. So I look at my life, and somehow that combined with, I was fortunate to have some fun experiences growing up. Some people don't have fun experiences growing up. I was able to. And so the idea of happiness and the idea of liking some things and disliking some things, or feeling good or feeling bad, somehow has caught my attention, that throughout my life, that I actually put some of those growth thoughts together into a book called Be Happy No Matter What, 5 Steps to Inner Freedom. And it's in its 10th anniversary now. And sometimes people say to me, well, when are you going to write your next book? And it's like, I don't know, this says it all for me. And it's about healing misperceptions that we have as children, misperceptions about ourselves, because kids always look to make sense out of what's happening around them. And with the little child's mind, we connect the dots of things that later, you know, we grow up with these perceptions and understandings that don't feel so good later. Like, I'm supposed to be happy all the time, or there's something wrong with me, or what's showing on my face that a person sees that triggers a response. So that's just a variety of things off of the idea of happiness as I'm introducing it today. So Janine, what comes to your mind and consciousness off of that?
Off of what you just said.
Off of any of that, or elsewhere, whatever.
Yeah, well, what you just said to me, I also recall when I was a child being told, "Why aren't you smiling? What's the matter with you?" Um,
Oh,
and and how that really impacts us. That we're only allowed to have one feeling, or we're supposed to be making somebody's day. And it also made me think of what a lot of women can relate to is being in a bar and a guy coming up to you and making some statement like, why aren't you smiling? Are you having a bad day? Like as if I'm supposed to be making them happy. Like I'm there to make their day for them by smiling. So that's what kind of makes me, that's where I go in my head from what you said, that judgment that's
mhm.
there from people.
And off of what you said, I'm reminded that my parents, so they were like young parents in the 50s. They were in in a in a stream of thought from their parents and from before that really another person. It's that it's okay to look to other people to make us happy.
Yeah.
And while it's fabulous to have a mutual relationship where you know someone and you know things that you can do and share to support another person. In my work as a therapist and a coach, I found, and in my own growth, that it really gets me into trouble to zero in to find someone who's going to make me happy. Because really we're each at the center. We're like, we are the ones behind these eyes looking out. So no one knows us the way we know us. And yeah, we can learn communication skills, which is a fabulous thing to let someone know how we really want to be treated. And then feel really satisfied when someone's respectful and can be responding and also own themselves. So the idea of a child is supposed to make their parents happy, it's like we're really each responsible for our happiness. And I did communicate that I had enough consciousness, totally imperfect, I have to say. But I had this idea because I went to some parenting workshops, which was great. There was one called Talk So Your Child Will Listen, and Listen So Your Child Will Talk. And it was a great eye-opener for me. And so I was able to.
You did this when you were a mother or when you were
When I was a new parent, yes.
Okay.
Which was a blessing because there's no rule book or, there's more things today in self-help, but in those days, we're not born with a parenting guide. Although maybe if we were close to our intuitive selves, we might be onto something, but often we're not that self-aware. So I would say to our son, listen, you are in charge of your happiness. Because kids think parents are supposed to make them happy too. I said, and I'm in charge of being kind, supportive, nurturing for you to find your way in the world and provide a roof, healthcare, transportation, food, the basics. And I'm sure we can have happy times together. And also, I'm not going to look to you to make me happy, although we're living in this household that I run, and I'm the one supervising until such time as you can get out on your own. And that I want to know from you, even when he was little, information that helps me support you on your path. Yeah. And I might be firm about some things, but So anyway, that idea of being responsible for someone else's happiness and someone else being responsible for our happiness is a questionable dynamic.
Yeah. I like that. I like how you spoke to your son when he was growing up, telling him that he was responsible for his own happiness. What a great way to start raising a mature child.
Right, and he didn't like that. So
He wanted
that doesn't mean he doesn't have an aversion to me about different things, as children and parents have that.
Mhm.
So, but I always felt good that I knew that much, because I really didn't want to look to him.
Yeah.
Because I knew what that was like, and it really wasn't fun to grow up with.
No, it's such a burden on a child when you have to be your parents' happiness, being parentified. It's so difficult for a child. It's such a burden on them. One of the things, my pet peeves, is when I hear single mothers saying on social media, "Oh, my son and I are having a date night tonight." It's like, he's not your boyfriend. You're not going on a date with your son. Imagine what that does to him as a child, being told that he's going on a date with his mother. Like how that transpires as he's growing up. I mean, we were talking about this off camera when we first started, mothers overprotecting their sons. But so anyways, I'm going to get back to where you were going with this.
Well, but I think that's an important point because it has ramifications. And one of my pet peeves is words, that words have metaphorical images, symbology, and they have actual definitions in the culture. And from culture to culture, it could mean something different.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean you're not devoted to your child. And there's plenty of children who grow up to be lovingly devoted to their parents in healthy ways.
Yes.
So it's always wise to just even lightly question the ramifications of what comes out of our mouths, not just to our children, but to others. And then there's self-talk, which affects us. So if we're critical in a demeaning way toward ourselves, that's like re-impressing our psyche with that. And so many of us, I would say many of us, I don't know the research, would like to be free of pain and to have a good time. And in whatever way that means to who's ever listening, in each of our own definitions of that. And that we're usually not aware that we're actively interfering with our progress in that area by infecting ourselves with our own self-judgment, and I'll call it, quote, negative thinking. I mean, negativity and positivity are two poles of a magnet that, you can't say what's good or bad in a magnet. So it just raises your consciousness about, I like to put quotes around negativity because it means different things.
Yeah.
Because one could have an overriding happiness, and I want to talk how we might define happiness, but one could have an overriding happiness that could mean a peaceful, calm, rich appreciation of even negative experiences in our lives when we see them in the context of our growth, that we could see something as has been of value. And often, it's very often appreciated in hindsight. And when you're in the middle of it, suffering, pain, anguish, betrayal, sadness that you can't seem to get out of, all those descriptive terms for that, that when you see it in the context of your life and can appreciate those things as growth stimulus, growth events, that could be viewed as an overriding happiness or satisfaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I I think there is such a, for me, it's a mixed feeling when I feel happy when I look back on my life and how I've grown from the experiences that have occurred to me. But I also feel a tremendous amount of sadness for how many years it took for me to get to that place. You know what I mean? And I think, well, so it's just bears reflecting. I mean, it is important to reflect on that. But yeah, there is a lot of happiness, and oh, wow, I have this now because of that experience.
I think that is, I love what you're saying. That is such a valuable, that I have, because what I have now is because of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I am in a situation where I'm either talking on happiness, something like that, I always say, be happy no matter what. Is not necessarily happy-go-lucky happiness, or false reassurance that denies or washes away the experiences that occur through which we grow, which really, and we were talking about this off camera, a teacher once said to me, you need to feel it in order to heal it. And earlier in, I'll say, our human development, very often, many of us feel such pain associated with feelings that we actually push them away and find creative ways to not feel them, because they're we experience them as so painful.
It's
and
an
one
owie.
of the, say it again. It's an owie.
An owie. And it's like, it makes me think of children, something hurts them and we go to make it go away for the child, or we kiss it and we say, okay, it's all gone now. And so then we there's that self-soothing or mother soothing kind of moment,
which can be interpreted as by the child as we should make the hurt go away.
Yes.
And so that's a beautiful dynamic right there. The mother's loving intention and natural kissing of a boo-boo, running to get ice, or, attending. And I'm thinking I must have been screaming over something when I'm sure the adults around me lovingly went to get me a chocolate chip cookie to distract me from the pain of what I was feeling.
Yeah.
And so in my little mind, I drew a conclusion that pain and hurt is bad. Cookies are great, takes away the pain, because it did. I could focus on that. But what's great is in my relationship with our son, he could never be distracted. He was a person that even the first few times I tried to distract him, and I took this as a lesson for myself, because he's a different person than I am. And I don't know what the what the impinging other thoughts are in his mind. And looking back, I just knew to offer a cookie. Here you go, you know, and stay crying. And then long enough for me to remember something somebody taught me, you know, if that doesn't work, then go to the next thing, which is hold the person while they're crying.
Mhm. That's nice.
You know, here, you know, are you open to be held? You know, can I hold you while you're crying until that's complete?
Hmm. Well, there you're talking about the 5 love languages with children. That
Right, right.
gifts didn't work for him, but physical touch did.
Can you say more about that? The 5 love languages for
Well,
children.
Dr. Gary Chapman talks about 5 love languages. We all know about that as therapists. And that,
Well, I'm not sure. And I know that there are therapists watching who might not know that. So are you able to just say what those 5 things are?
Well, yes, the 5 love languages are gifts, words of appreciation, physical touch, acts of service, and quality time. And so,
Yes, wait. I want to, because I want to emphasize that. So gifts are 1.
words of
Touch.
appreciation.
Oh, gifts. Okay, appreciation.
Physical touch.
Physical touch.
Quality time.
Quality time.
Physical touch.
Okay, so can you just say them one more time, because they're going right over my head. Go ahead.
Yes. Gifts.
Gifts.
Physical touch.
Good.
Words of appreciation. Quality time. And acts of service.
Acts of service. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, please continue. So he
talks about this in his best-selling book in relationship to men and women and their relationships, but on a romantic angle, getting to know your partner and what his or her 5 love languages. But when you watch his video, he also goes into at the end, and I suspect in his book as well, to also look for this in your children. So when I'm talking to couples who have children, I first introduce it to them as a couple. And then I say to them, now you can also take this to your children. And I'll even say, can you think right now of what each of your children respond to best? And they, the mothers usually can pick up on that right away. And that's something that's, that you were just describing there. You were talking about how your son did not react to the cookie, which would be, I guess, a gift, but instead he reacted more to the physical touch of you just putting your arms around him and embracing him.
Well, and I think of, in terms of those of us that have faced eating disorders,
Yes.
Sugar addictions, compulsive eating, those, and the others too, that, who's to say what a child latches on to?
Yeah. And that comes up a lot in therapy where, I remember a woman telling me that every Friday the family would go to the grocery store and everybody would pick out a tub of ice cream and then they'd go pick up a pizza and they'd go home and watch movies. And so the soothing came from the tub of ice cream and the pizza, which didn't seem, on the surface, it doesn't seem like a terrible thing. But then she dealt with eating disorders throughout her life as a result of that. As a result of needing to be rewarded with food, but then getting fatter and fatter and feeling like there was something wrong with her. So she needed to then remove that. And so it escalated into, people making fun. And there was some abuse involved as well. So that adds another layer to the situation.
Mm.
So, and physical touch, likewise, can also be exacerbated by a woman feeling, women are now in a place where they feel they can express themselves sexually. And so now a lot of women are talking about using sex to soothe instead of food. And so being in a relationship with a man and sex means he loves her. So that's taking physical touch to a different level. It's going beyond just hand holding to, if you don't have sex with me, you must not love me.
And this is so great. And I worked with someone who, because of how they grew up, was really, it's an old word, inhibited, but closed down in terms of sex, and really couldn't, went off into a defensive mode when their partner, it happened to be a male, but sex goes in all different ways, men and women, and men and men, and women and women. When her partner would reach out, even with loving touch, that looked like it was going to evolve into sex, and physical touching, that she clammed up and everything. And later, when there was safe communication between the two of them, her partner said to her, listen, this is one of the ways I express love, through sex. It happened to be a man. And when she heard that it was being served to her, so to speak, with love, that she was working on opening up to love, because she had shut down at it, love in many different ways, in all the different ways that she was working on opening up. So, and coincidentally, not randomly, I believe, but at just the right point, he said that to her. And so she started to work on opening up to receiving the love that was coming through the physical touch that was also physically stimulating. So that was an interesting other side of it.
Yeah.
So
many different facets of happiness are being brought up here today. And say more about your book.
Well, it puts you in, how can I say this? It takes you. There's nothing you have to do when you take this book in hand. Nothing. You just need to let your eyes go over the words. And there are some exercises in here. It doesn't matter if you do them or if you don't. You can read through them, and it will have an effect on you. So what it does is it brings you into alignment with yourself. It takes you on a little tour of yourself and looking at your situations. It's a very easy read. There's a lot of space in the book between the lines. There's the font is easy to read. In the beginning, it takes you through a very short exercise on how to be open to happiness, and how to center in yourself, and how to start to appreciate yourself and your life the way you would appreciate a piece of artwork. That there's some light, there's some dark, there's some things in the foreground, there's some things in the background, And it gives you a way to look at yourself that can relax self-judgment and inspire the natural openness that you have. Here's something I discovered, that so many of us are protective of our vulnerability, whatever that means to us. And vulnerability is openness. It's openness. So when you feel better about being open and safer in your openness, then the previous idea of protectiveness from something that can happen when you're, quote, too vulnerable, there's a balance that's created, and you develop a confidence or confidence based on now seeing real things that you've experienced that were overlooked because perhaps dealing with painfulness or misinterpretation of things sort of took your attention away from other things that can be appreciated of your naturalness, your natural openness, that appreciating that gets built out within yourself, so that you're eventually operating through your openness with a true groundedness in feeling safe within yourself.
Yeah.
Meaning that you can trust your intuition, that if you have an uh-oh feeling, gets you in touch with your true uh-oh feeling, that then you can use critical thinking to determine, is this a situation I want to go into? Is it not? Is this a person I want to spend more time with or not? Is this a way I want to serve humanity or not?
Mm-hmm.
Is this a way I want to respond to something or respond in a different way? It really shows you that you are in the driver's seat within yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And all the while, it's going through the book, it's actually your consciousness is using it to heal shreds and threads of things that are remaining in your life that are energetically interfering with what you would like to bring about in your life, which includes removing yourself from things that are painful, that you do not want to learn anymore through, and a choice to move into areas that, you know, inspire you and bring out the best in yourself.
And when you talk about vulnerability, what comes up for me is trust. Because when a person is able to be vulnerable with another person, that's showing that they have trust in that person.
Well, and to me, what it shows first is that you're developing trust in yourself. That if things go awry with this other person, you can trust that you're thinking about it in a healthy, critical way that inspires you to articulate what your needs are and boundaries are, and then gauge the degree to which the communication is being received by the other person. Are they continuing to trespass my boundaries? Because you could, another way to view it is with people that I've been with who, is an old-fashioned term, turn out to be not my cup of tea. I recognize that I can trust that they will continue to respond the way that they are. And that trust is inside me, even though it looks like I'm trusting something about the other person. And then as a relationship develops, one can relax depending on the responses. Once you see that a person is responsive to your boundaries and articulations of what you would like, then you could, I would say, then you could trust that, oh, well, this is a person who thinks about things that I say and cares enough to want to hear about it, right? Now, the other person might be less conscious. That's something else to consider. They may, that what we're saying to the other person may go way over their head, and that doesn't mean there's something wrong with them, as much as it may not be someone you're going to go forward with, unless you have the kind of workable relationship that you sort of agree that you're each going to learn things from each other. And you can also gauge and this is the language that I use. So you have to pick the best language for you, because this language works for me. To what degree is this person a good candidate for us to have a fit together? And there's so many variations on that, because what's important to me might not be of the same importance to them. This was a great one when my husband and I were first dating. Oh, it might have been our first date. We're in a movie, and he whispers to me, he says, "Ellen, what made you want to see this movie?"
Oh, I remember you saying.
I told you this, right?
Uh-huh.
I don't know if it came up in the video we did. And I said, "Oh, I didn't want to see this movie. I thought you wanted to see this movie." Well, somehow, and you know, if you watch that video we did on that, Janine interviewed me on being your true self in a relationship, and we did our undulating relationship with my undulating relationship with Gary, ups and downs, ins and outs, married, divorced, married again, you know, all of that. Somehow, as and we were only 19, when we went to a diner for coffee after, and we made an agreement. We were never going to do that again. We didn't know if our relationship was going to go forward, but we both saw that that was not a good thing to do. And we sort of made a pact not to do that, to really ask and find out, and to be as honest as we could about what we were going to do. And later that evolved to, I'll speak for myself, when I loved having him come with us to visit my grandfather. And I mean, it was so much fun for me to have him there. But after a while, I saw, you know, he was sort of looking off into space and wasn't really involved in the conversations. And I said to him, I said, you know, that's what that looks like for me. And I don't know if he admitted or something. He said, you know, it would be fine for me if you guys went, me, my sister, my mother, and I could stay home and do this and that and the other thing. I said, you know what? Much as I really wanted him, I said, you know what? Let's do that. And, you know, when that happened later, I didn't realize that it was a pressure in my mind that I was responsible for his good time there or his bad time there, or his bored time. I didn't know that until we shifted that. And I was much freer. And I didn't know that that energy was in me. So here I was still looking to make him happy, and maybe at a much more mature point. And even then, it was a drain on my energy, and it was not good in our relationship. So,
and I think what's really important about what you just said there, Ellen, is you were talking about giving your partner space to be who he is, and that you don't, and that was okay. Like you were able to allow him to be who he was, Gary, and you were being Ellen. You didn't have to be on top of each other every 5 minutes. because there are moments in life where, you like doing something, he doesn't like doing something, but you're allowing him, okay, stay home and do that. You weren't making him feel guilty. You weren't yelling at him and saying, well, why can't you be with me? Or you don't love me, or blah, blah, blah. You were just focused on loving him and bringing that happiness in your relationship, which I'm sure is a reason why you have 50 years together. So all those abilities to be giving each other space.
And I think there was another thing that happened at that original pact about the movie was that we also said if we go on in life together, that we could also say to the other person, you know what, like at a college graduation or an event where we could say to one another, I know that this is not something that's pleasing to you, but it would be really mean something to me to have you there.
Yeah,
and we both agreed, but we both agreed that we would definitely do that for each other.
Yeah.
So, but it took me a while in that situation visiting my grandfather, so that maybe that was in the 8th or 9th year of our relationship. And it hadn't occurred to me that it was a situation like when we were in the movie theater, because we weren't discussing it. But it occurred to me to check in with him because I could see that it wasn't something that was, enlivening him.
And having happiness in a relationship, there is that give and take. Sometimes, okay, sure, take your space, you do that. But then there are some times when you're negotiating and saying, well, this time I really would like to have you there for this reason. And asking about that. It's a give and take, knowing when to say, all right, here's your space, and knowing when to say, well, this time, would you mind doing this?
And another thing about happiness in relationships, when I look at my relationship with Gary, I would say most of our interests are very different. They appear very different, yet that's like an external dimension of our relationship. We enjoy being together.
Yeah.
Even doing nothing. We enjoy going supermarket shopping together. And so I guess what I'm saying is for us all to be open to all the different ways. And here, we as individuals, it's great to know yourself, know what you like and things like that, and learn some communication skills. And then recognize that the other person is the center of their life and has a whole constellation of experiences and ideas and attitudes about other people, sexuality, spending money. I mean, all the concrete things of this world, and has an idea about relationships. So it's always been an idea of mine, although I haven't tested it out, although people have used it, seem to get mileage out of it, is when you meet a new person, make it more like an interactive give and take interview, sharing.
Yes.
Tell me about your life, tell me about your relationships, and you hear about one and you see a sadness on the person's face. You say, well, how did that end? And and then you hear from the person, get a sense of what their role is, how they view it, what their sense of self-awareness is. And all the while you're checking yourself out for responses to their energy, what they're saying. I have a friend recently who met someone for the first time, and they used the technique of inviting someone to talk about themselves. So when this person was sharing with me, and they said, and never once did they ask me about myself. So I said to them, I said, well, that wasn't the purpose. The purpose was when you went into it, because you may see this person again and again in a situation, that you wanted to get them talking about themselves so you could learn some things about themselves, about the other person. So you could determine, is this somebody I would like to ask again to have a conversation or participate with them?
Mm-hmm.
So I said, so what did you learn? So they said to me all these things, and I could see how all the things that this new person shared about, I could see how they matched these experiences in my friend. And my friend was stuck on that they never asked anything about me and wasn't focused on all these ingredients that could make a journey of exploring an interesting journey with this other person. So after I said, go ahead, sorry.
Have they had a second date?
Well, it wasn't even a date.
Oh.
It was a meeting in a public environment,
Mm-hmm.
Of a person who seemed of interest to my friend. So, and there were things that the new person said, like when my friend said, do you mind if I sit here next to you? And the new person, who was totally unknown, looked up with appreciative eyes and said, I was hoping you would.
Mm.
So there were lovely ingredients that my friend couldn't see at first. So I said, are you open to seeing what I see that could inspire you to feel something else in addition to what you're feeling? And they said yes. And when I shared what I saw, they saw that. So my friend's mind opened up, and they admitted to me that that was an old way of viewing things. Even though my friend took themselves into the relationship for that moment, they still had the idea of, when you meet somebody, I'm really looking for somebody who's going to ask about me, too. But there was a protection that was in there. And I give my friend lots of credit for going ahead anyway. And none of that was active in their talking to the new person, because they really got into asking about the person. So it'll be interesting to see if and what emerges for them.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what happens. For myself, I'm in a different space from hearing that. So, I'm hearing a red flag, but
and this is so valuable. I love our talks together, because if it isn't you that's noticing the red flag, it's me that's noticing the red flag for me. So for those who are watching this, I mean, to honor yourself when a red flag comes up, and that and that we hear things through our own gateways of growth.
Yeah.
So we get to then go and contemplate and learn additional wonderful things about ourselves.
Exactly.
That's really the outcome that I see. So thank you for that.
Well, we've got about 10 minutes, and just wanted to kind of talk about that timing right now so that we don't go too far over. And we're talking about the conversation of happiness. And we started out by talking about children and that developmental process, which I think was wonderful. And then we sort of segued into relationships, because that's what happens when we become adults. We get into relationships with people that we spend our lives with or share moments of our lives with. And so I thought it would be interesting. I pulled up this happiness quote from the Dalai Lama. Happy, and he says, happy people build their inner world. Unhappy people blame their outer world. And I just thought that was so interesting, what he said about that we have to, the happiness comes from within. And when we are focusing on blaming other people constantly, angry people, narcissistic people, being a victim, it's always their fault, it's always their fault. There's no room for happiness when we're blaming. And so we've got to focus on taking responsibility and pulling ourselves in to our internal world and saying, what can I learn from this experience? How can I grow as a person? And from that pain and suffering that takes us to enlightenment, as we were saying earlier, and feeling that happiness when we look back after we've gone through the pain and suffering and grown from the experience, feeling that happiness of, wow, from that situation that occurred to me, I'm now in this place in my life. And thank goodness I'm in this place in my life because I'm so much happier. You know, I mean, when you talk to your clients and you say, think about that time you lost your job, you were laid off or you were fired or whatever. And where are you at now in your career? Does that even matter to you anymore? That you lost that job or were fired? Because now you're the head of this organization, or now you're an attorney, or you're whatever. You're in this really fabulous place in your life. You've got this great relationship. You live in this wonderful home. None of that matters. And I realized that perspective when I was graduating with my bachelor's degree from Antioch University in Santa Barbara. And there was a teacher who I didn't like when I was at Antioch. And when we were going through the line of shaking our professors' hands and hugging them and all that sort of thing and thanking them, I saw this teacher and I just gave her a hug. And because in that moment, I just felt like, who cares? You know, I got my degree now. What difference does it make? Whatever it was that I felt about her in that moment, I just felt so much love for her because she was part of me getting my degree, and whatever struggles I went through with her, I got my degree and I became a better person. Probably also because of those struggles she put me through. But do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, yes. It makes me think of, I know a number of people who were pretty high up in corporate positions, who were so stressed and miserable that they left. And those positions really were their focus, and they were, many of them felt victims even in that environment, and having lots of things, and left those environments and went and followed other career paths, massage therapists, health coaches, and also, as you're saying, all of that didn't matter anymore.
No,
because it was on the way to this.
Yeah, it's over with. It's in the past. I mean, my gosh, we're both career women who have established our own practices. We are doing something that historically wasn't allowed or acceptable for a woman to do. Not that women didn't do it in history, but it was more of a struggle for them to do it than it was for us. I mean, I didn't think twice about starting my business. I mean, I didn't think anything because, oh, I'm a woman, I can't do this. That didn't even surface in my imagination. But we've done this. And so for me now, when I think back of the troubles that I had in a government organization before I started my business. It's all it's all water under the bridge now because I have 10 years I've been in business now. 10 years that I've gone through a lot of ups and downs and struggles with people who tried to take advantage of my organization a couple of times. And here I am. None of that really mattered to me because the whole time I felt grounded that I'm a businesswoman. And in business, you don't have time to be worried about people who are out to get you. I mean, it's par for the course, I think, that people are going to try to do that. And I also think, would a businessman sit around worrying about something like that every day? No, he's got a business to run. It's kind of like, all right, whatever they want to do, what they want to do, but I got to get back to business. I got to focus on what's coming through my door, customer service, making a profit, so forth and so on, You're
bringing up a very good, I know we don't have much time left, but the way that you're sharing how to think about your experience is a model or a prototype for any of us looking at our experiences. And one could think that I think the important thing is to really look for where we feel a victim. And that comes if you hear yourself complaining about anything or blaming, even complaining or blaming in your own head. Mm-hmm. That's still shreds and threads of something that can really keep you from experiencing a natural happiness. And I like to think of happiness as an enduring satisfaction in life, in ourselves. And yeah, you could color it with deeper colors, and embellish it, but in its purest form, like a satisfaction in life and in yourself. And there was one other thing about this. Out in our arena of life, in our society and other societies, there's some controversy about what happiness means. Some say, it's only when you have material things, or it's not something that's lasting. Well, happiness, bliss, joy, these are all in the same arena, ballpark. So whatever word resonates with you and how you define it is what is best for you to work with. So you can listen to these discussions out there and of narrow or limited meanings for things in yourself, expand it to whatever it is for you that fits best to describe what that is inside.
Yeah. And so what I'm hearing you saying, how to restate that in another way, is happiness is what you create for yourself, how you define it for yourself. Because the way I define happiness isn't the same as the way you define happiness, or the way this person down the street or that person in that country. We each define happiness in our own way. And that's what's important, is that we allow that and not allow somebody else to decide what makes us happy. We define.
That is a beautiful note to end on.
Okay.
That is just beautiful. So
why don't
thanks for
we do that?
joining us. What? Say it again.
I said, so why don't we do that? We will end on this note.
Yes. Thanks for joining us, Janine. We love this. I love this.
Yeah, I love doing this. So we'll look forward, Ellen and I will look forward to seeing you here again in the near future to talk about some other topic that we decide to conjure up and explore with our audience. So
Great.
have a wonderful day. Be happy no matter what.